Kalen.
And I'm James.
Cody cannot be here with us this evening because he slipped and fell on a porcupine and is currently getting the quills dug out of his bum. It's okay, we'll take care of y'all.
It's not an inside joke, I swear to God. Yeah, 30-something. Not my age, I swear to God. This is not my birthday episode. Not the age that I am. I promise.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just see what your driver's license has to say.
No, my driver's license. Yep. See, at a certain age, you got to start getting fake IDs to say that you're younger.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. It should be. Be like, I swear I'm only 22.
Like some 70-year-old person. I'm 25. Like, what?
I smoke a lot of cigarettes. Yeah, episode 39.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Comic Boot.
Hello.
Hi. This week, on Thursday, I know that our good friend Maher will be very excited, as I told him today, that we are going to be discussing... I know we didn't know at the end of last week what we were going to be discussing, but we are going to be discussing the history and origins and... Philosophies of the Green Lantern Corps.
Because we reference them a lot, and we don't really give a lot of backstory, so I feel... That's good that we set aside one episode to be like, hey, here's all that shit we're talking about.
There wasn't a major Blu-ray release or anything like that. I mean, we could have talked about
Judas Contract
and stuff, but it's verbatim in the comic books, and it's whatever.
Well, not necessarily verbatim, because they're going a little. The DCAU is pretty close to what's happening in the comics. But they still like to deviate a little bit, which is fine.
But since Cody's not here, I want to pose a question to you.
Okay.
There's one thing I do want to talk about that I think is of utmost importance that we talk about being a comic podcast. And that is the first trade paperback of the Flintstones.
Yes. Oh my god.
I know that's kind of a surprise. But
no, it's so... Okay,
No, I mean, like, that I'm dropping that on you, that I didn't talk to you about this. But
no, it's fine, but...
I just kind of thought of that.
No, here's the weird shit about the Flintstones. When it first became a comic, I thought, okay, that's, it's whatever. But then I started hearing everyone talk about how great it is.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe them. I'm like, it's the fucking Flintstones.
Well, I wrote a paper yesterday for school, and I proceeded to... My daughter was down here playing Roblox or whatever on the Xbox, and I went outside and I read the Doctor Strange trade that you gave me.
Yeah.
And then I read the rest of the Flintstones that I hadn't read yet. And as I'm reading Flintstones, I'm putting up panels on my Facebook page, like
I saw that.
Not to the Comic Boot Facebook page, but to all of Facebook, because it's just that I think it's important.
It's super important,
especially for comic fans to kind of step away from the superheroes and the things that we're so used to reading and look at this as a social statement, because it tackles everything from consumerism to PTSD to the needless acts of war
to religion
to gay marriage to
marriage in general.
I mean, it goes from marriage in general to school systems. It goes from marriage in general to gay marriage and the idiotic fallacies that that follow. It's just brilliant. And if you are a right-winger that believes that God should be in politics,
everything.
Yeah, and it's like, you might not want to read this because it's going to make you real angry, or fucking read it and educate yourself.
You might learn something, yeah.
And I'm not saying that one political way is better than another, but this doesn't deal with politics, this deals with social.
It's social.
Everything is social where this is concerned. There's no politics
and moral, I would say.
Well, it's hard to say that, because that's when you start getting into that whole religion debate, because morality is typically based on religion and what religion you follow. I mean, there's the difference between being a good person and being a bad person, and a lot of times Christians will view Muslims, unfortunately, as bad people because of Sharia law and all these things, but Muslims don't look at themselves and say, man, we're really bad people.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So there's different standards of morals and morality where things are concerned. And you may be a God-fearing Christian and say that the Bible says Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, which is really funny because Adam and Steve are two gay characters in the Flintstones.
Yeah, they are.
But I think that morality is just one of those things that you can't you can't just blanket say morality whenever religion is kind of the basis of morality.
Well, let me pose this question: do you think that humanity, without a religion, would have found like a moral guideline to live by? Like, do you think that without religion,
it did for
we would have
thousands of years?
I'm trying to like what because I know that like even ancient civilizations had their own form of religion.
They did, but you got to look at the idea. It's not really okay. It's religion, yes, but it's more of a philosophy. So
what?
Without looking up the definition of religion as per se, the religion that you are talking about, I'm kind of envisioning as the belief of a god or one thing that is a higher power.
Or several.
That
was very popular.
Well, yeah, Greek and Roman gods and things like
and
that.
Egyptian.
And Egyptian. But Egyptian gods, there were like, 4 or 5, maybe the main ones. Oh, no. 4 or 5. You had Horus and Isis and...
Ra.
Well, Ra is kind of a different thing. He was a little bit before that. He was kind of...
like the Kronos
version? Yeah, kind of.
Like came before the gods?
Yeah, because the Egyptians realized that, the Nile would flood and then the sun would bring crop.
Yeah.
Because it would re-nourish the Nile.
And they didn't really have science, so they're like, this must be the way of a higher being.
But then they started telling the stories of like Isis and Horus
and Sekhmet and Anubis.
Anubis, yeah. And that whole story, which is absolutely fascinating. But I think that is religion. But when you look at concepts like Buddhism that says there is no real God, there's only enlightenment.
Well, aren't there 2 sects of Buddhism? There's one that views Buddha as like a teacher, and then there's another one that reviews that...
You're not a Buddhist if you think that Buddha is a god. No such thing.
That's interesting, because there is another... Isn't there?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there's Hinduism, but that's...
I'm pretty sure, a
complete different thing that has thousands
I think I read years
ago
that gods. There's 2 different sects. There's one that sees him as a great teacher, and then there's one that sees him as a divine being.
I think that more than anything else, because of the fact that he was the first to reach enlightenment.
Probably.
And even though enlightenment is fleeting almost immediately in Buddhist teachings, that they kind of view him as the first. I mean, he's the first. I mean, I don't know what the language is.
The one. He's the one.
Sort of. But yeah, we're talking about religion on a comic podcast. What the fuck is going on?
Well, I mean, that's not really a weird thing, because that's something... Comic books have been a medium to talk about social issues and history.
Yeah.
And they present it in a very digestible way for people who might not be, big-time scholars.
Right. And this
Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones.
I don't have it down here. So I can't tell you. I don't remember off the top of my head the artist and all that stuff, and the writer. But
I want to say Miller. I could be wrong.
Maybe. We're looking it up real quick because mine's upstairs. Dooby-dooby-doo.
Come on, Brian.
You also learned the origin of Yabba Dabba Doo, which is fucking brilliant.
Mark Russell. And Steve Pugh. He's the illustrator, but Mark Russell is the writer.
And so this book is the first 5 or first 6. I think it's the first 5. First 6, maybe? I don't know. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure it's the first 6.
They're individual vignettes. And each issue can be contained within itself. There's no ongoing storyline with this.
Yeah, each issue just kind of covers its own subject, whatever they want to talk about. Like, there's one issue where, Fred is talking about his time during this war against the tree people, right?
And that they saw learn what the tree people are, but
yeah, they're like savage, not unlike how colonialism happened, where settlers showed up and started to extinguish the native population.
Right, to create their home, because this whole idea of bedrock was like, hey, let's get rid of the tree people, we need to get rid of the trees, so we can create this place called Bedrock.
Yes.
But it also, I think, even more importantly, plays to the current issues that we have in the world, where the wars that we have going on in Afghanistan and things like that, where, kind of going back to what we said earlier, that, the Taliban don't view themselves as immoral or as enemies, and Muslims don't that either, and North Koreans know that they've got to know that Kim Jong Un is a fucking whack job. Man. But I mean, if we declare war on North Korea, who does that affect? We're not taking out a leader; we're taking out people that could be victims.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this commentary from the Flintstones is about war. That they talk about that, and they address the fact that the Moose Lodge is actually a support group for
veterans of
the war, and then later in an issue they go to war. And
it's like there's
a slick talking Bam Bam.
Bam Bam.
There's a slick talking leader that's like, we have to take out the tree people. And so Fred signs up, Barney goes back, and so then he eventually signs up. And they go to war, and they come to find out that they've been lied to the whole time, because Fred is looking for other tree people, and he finds a doll in the forest.
Yeah,
and he goes, who the hell brings a kid to war? We've been lied to.
Well, because they set the whole thing on fire, expecting like an ambush, and then it turns out that it wasn't an ambush; it was just their homes.
It was their homes. And then, of course, Barney finds Bam Bam, who was descendant from these tree people, and
adopts him. And that's why Bam Bam is stronger than everyone else.
Yeah. And it's not just some freak of nature. It's that he's a tree person.
Yeah.
But
that's like one issue. And then the very next issue, it's them walking around a mall. Like, why do... And then they kind of Fred gets
into That's actually two different issues, because they ended on that issue. Was the origin of Bam Bam. That was the very last issue of that trade paperback.
That's right. Yep. So in an earlier issue,
they talk about the consumerism stuff.
They're like walking around in a mall, and then they just discuss consumerism, and Fred has this existential moment where he's like, why do we do this? Like, what is this going to do for our lives? And
even the television goes, people are buying things they call crap.
Yes, they're buying crap, and it's just this well played satire of our modern life set to the Flintstones.
And then they address the issue of the 1% versus the mass with Mr. Slate and his desire to be surrounded by people, but he has to pay them to show up. And in that final issue where it's the end of the world,
yeah,
they talk about he wants people to come and hang out with him, and they're like, screw that, and they bounce out.
Yeah.
And then that's where he gets his I hate everyone kind of attitude. So this is kind of like, before the Flintstones cartoon aired, this is kind of what happened.
Yeah. Like
which is kind of fun to think about. But
not really a prequel, because Pebbles and Bam Bam are high school age, or like middle school.
Yeah, and then you also meet Gazoo, which is the alien that sticks around.
And he's like recording their behavior.
Because all the aliens go on spring break and kill all the cops.
Yes. Oh man!
But I tell you what, man, this is probably the best book that I've read in a very
And that guy
long time.
who wanted to tell him about economics, but the teacher was like, "No, don't tell him that," and then was like shoving him out the door, and then he pops in through the window. He's like, "And another thing, kid," it's like he's trying to teach them about how the world works. And the teacher's like, "No, don't tell them things. We don't want them to think."
Well, and that goes back. That plays directly into when Pebbles is staying with the Rubbles, and they go, "How's school?" And she goes, "They're teaching me how to sit down and shut up."
Yeah.
And Barney's like, "I excelled at that," and that is the state of our modern
He's like
school systems.
He's like, those lessons are what made me the man I am today.
Yeah. And it's a great social narrative for today.
Yeah.
And I would recommend it so very, very highly.
I do too. It's probably one of the best things I've read. And that's probably top 5 this year. Or at least last year.
Well, it's only 420. It's only, third week in, what is it?
March,
April. There it is, April. So, but besides, this is the first time I've had...
It started being published in like 2016.
Yeah, but this is the first time I've gotten to actually sit down and read a whole bunch like that.
Yeah.
And so this blows me away, especially non-superhero stuff. So
it's stepping up their game. Like superhero stuff is like second tier now compared to things like the Flintstones and books by Image.
Yeah.
All the independent stuff. Like that's really good.
Even though I'm going to start lumping like Cannibal